Chapter 186, and Unspecialized Characters False Combos. When comboing, the numerous skills an unspecialized possessed was a huge advantage. No other class had so many short cooldown skills. Of course, this also meant that using them was more complicated. In order to do the same amount of damage as a single high-leveled skill did, unspecialized characters would need to chain several skills. Moreover, there couldn't be any mistakes. Unspecialized characters were actually quite a difficult class. However, to Yi Shu, who had played Glory for 10 years, his mechanics were as precise as a machine. His opponent Yu Wenzhou was also an absolute expert in the professional scene though. To be comboed until death, that was something that would only happen to someone like Tang Ru and Poplar Beach. Even under the relentless attacks, Yu Wenzhou was able to find an opportunity. With a swing, a cold light flashed and Flowing Tree used sword draw. The sword aura flew in an arc towards Lord Grimm. Lord Grimm's myriad manifestation umbrella shook and a dragon tooth thrust forward at Flowing Tree. Two blood blossoms flew out into the air at the same time. Flowing Tree had been hit by dragon tooth. Lord Grimm had been cut by sword draw. Characters that were hit by dragon tooth would be briefly stunned. Characters that were cut by sword draw would fly backwards. However, while flying back, Lord Grimm's myriad manifestation umbrella transformed into a gun form. A burst of flame shot out from the tip of his umbrella and anti-tank missiles shot out. The 3 anti-tank missiles exploded into a blazing flame, burning Flowing Tree from top to bottom. Lord Grimm used quick recover as he landed on the ground. He flipped over and stood up. His hands continued to fire, attacking from afar. Even though Flowing Tree's sword draw had done damage to Lord Grimm, it hadn't interrupted Yi Shu's offense. The situation didn't change much. Yu Wenzhou had been able to find an opportunity several times, but he had no way of taking back the initiative. Yi Shu had been able to adjust to Yu Wenzhou's counter-attacks every time, quickly changing his path and staying on the offensive. The constantly changing combos didn't seem to go on for very long, but the control and pressure put on by them couldn't be ignored. Moreover, many attacks were hit in quick succession. However, these attacks weren't considered as combos by the system, so they didn't count towards the total. These attacks may not have been counted towards the combo by the system, but in actual battle, they could be used to chain attacks, which was why players called them false combos. It was possible to avoid false combos, but players couldn't play perfectly, so they would sometimes fail to dodge these attacks for various reasons. TLC, combos are strings of attacks that cannot be dodged or blocked if the first hit connects. False combos are similar to combos, except they can be dodged or blocked, so they are technically not true combos and thus aren't counted by the system. In this match, even though Yu Wenzhou wasn't completely powerless like Tang Ru or Poplar Beach were, he was still struggling. But even in this situation, the two were still doing two things at once, fighting while chatting. If a normal player was watching on the side, he definitely wouldn't believe that it was possible to chat with such liveliness in such a high-skill fight. In the end, the launched Flowing Tree was hit by a falling flower palm and then a sword draw. The last sliver of health fell and Yu Wenzhou lost in the end. You won, Yu Wenzhou said. Very normal, Yi Shu laughed. The advantages of an unspecialized really are clear. Plus, you have that mysterious weapon. However, the higher the levels, the weaker they become, Yu Wenzhou said. Yeah. What do you think the limit is? Yi Shu asked. To be honest, I don't think there's any point discussing unspecialized characters. There are too many difficult requirements that have to be met in order to play them well. First of all, without that weapon in your hand, there's no way you'd be so oppressive. Next, only you can fully utilize the advantages of an unspecialized. For this specific class, there's only meaning if these conditions can be satisfied, Yu Wenzhou said. Right now, they're all satisfied, Yi Shu said. With all of the conditions you've met, I think that at level 70, the advantages of an unspecialized will still be greater than the lack of high damage and high-level skills. Remember, this is only if you have a weapon like yours. But let's say that Glory raises the level cap from level 70. Level 95. The limit is level 95. At that level, even if it's you, unspecialized won't have any value, Yu Wenzhou said. Whoa, you thought the same as me. How unfortunate, Yi Shu sighed. If this was a bit earlier and you caught up with the level 50 era, then your unspecialized would be extremely strong. It would have been considered a bug, Yu Wenzhou said. Right now, it's not too late yet, Yishu said. However, after this season, Glory won't have raised the level cap in 3 years, Yu Wenzhou said. Yeah, it might be soon, Yishu said. Level 75? Level 80, unspecialized will grow weaker as the other classes gain more skills, Yu Wenzhou said. But it'll at least be in the acceptable range. Do you think I'll still be able to play until the day the level cap reaches level 95, Yishu said. If you only play like this in the 10th server, what isn't possible, Yu Wenzhou laughed. Ha, you're right, Yishu also laughed. Another round, Yu Wenzhou asked. No need. I won't let you see my strength clearly, Yishu said. Did you not use your full strength? Yu Wenzhou asked. Of course, I'm old. I need to take care of myself, Yishu said. Then I guess that's it, Yu Wenzhou chuckled and then left the field. After the two characters bumped into each other again outside of the arena, Yishu said bye and then left. What do you think? Yu Wenzhou turned his head to ask Huang Shaoxian. He did a total of 21 false combos, Huang Shaoxian said. He really knows what my weaknesses are, Yu Wenzhou said. Hand speed. This was Yu Wenzhou's fatal weakness. As a result, in this type of fight, his hand speed was incapable of keeping up with his opponent's movements. His character would move too slowly, making it so that attacks that could have been avoided weren't, which in the end, became false combos. Yeah, Huang Shaoxian nodded his head and then said, he knows all the weakness of all his opponents in the alliance. If I was his opponent, then he wouldn't have used so many false combos. If he wasn't an unspecialized, he also wouldn't be able to put out so many false combos, Yu Wenzhou said. If you had been playing under the same circumstances, then how many of those 21 false combos would you have been able to dodge? Huang Shaoxian stared blankly. You should look at the recordings again. Yu Wenzhou got up and patted Huang Shaoxian. The unspecialized character's unpredictable and complex style creates these constant false combos. After Yu Wenzhou left, Huang Shaoxian returned to in front of his computer. He logged out of the game and opened up the recording app, bringing up the recording of the fight with Yu Wenzhou versus Yishu. 21 false combos, how many could he have dodged? When he was watching the fight, Huang Shaoxian really hadn't considered this issue. The two had been fighting very quickly, so Huang Shaoxian didn't have time to think of that. Now that he had looked at the recording, Huang Shaoxian played it again, except this time, he imagined that he was the one playing against Yishu. If it was him, it would have turned differently here. First, he noticed the difference in hand speed. There were a few places that he could have done better. Even though he probably wouldn't have been able to win against the enormous advantage of an unspecialized, he could have at least played more beautifully than Yu Wenzhou. But, these 21 false combos. After counting them out one by one, Huang Shaoxian began to sweat. 21 false combos. If he were the one playing, it might not have played out like that. However, when he imagined himself playing, Huang Shaoxian discovered that of these 21 false combos, he would have only been able to dodge 4 of them. 4. This was something Huang Shaoxian hadn't expected. The difference between his hand speed and Yu Wenzhou's was quite large. Huang Shaoxian had originally thought that these false combos sent to Yu Wenzhou were done to bully him, but he now discovered that these 21 false combos wasn't as simple as taking advantage of Yu Wenzhou's weakness. Huang Shaoxian recovered and played the recording again. F***CK. After watching it again, Huang Shaoxian couldn't help but curse. 3 times. The number of false combos he could have dodged was actually 3. He had made an oversight on one of them. That false combo looked easy to dodge from a spectator's perspective, but in the actual battle, Lord Grimm had attacked from Flowing Tree's dead angle. That attack was a sneak attack with a 100% chance of succeeding. Even if it hadn't hit, the many attacks after it would definitely have hit out a false combo. For someone so perceptive as him to have made an oversight, that only showed how sneaky and hidden that attack was. It was just that against someone with such a weakness in hand speed like Yu Wenzhou, there was no need to use such a complicated attack. How many of these tricks was this guy hiding? Huang Shaoshan though. A cold chill went down his spine. He once again studied Lord Grimm's fighting style. He wanted to carefully analyze how many hidden attacks were made. Soon after, he discovered another terrifying reality. Even for a god-level character like him, he truly lacked too much experience towards these false combos done by Lord Grimm. Falling flower palm followed by a sword draw. In a one-on-one match, he had never seen such a combo before. Lord Grimm's numerous combos and false combos, these sort of chaining attacks, could be considered as coordination. The coordination done by several classes was being done by a single character. The more Huang Shaoshan thought, the stronger this feeling. Flowing Tree's opponent wasn't a single person, but rather 2, 3, or perhaps even more, but it couldn't be seen in this match because the opponent hadn't used his full strength. If he had gone all out, what would the result be? Huang Shaoshan was very curious about this question, so he quickly logged into the game. Chapter 187, Can't Find a Chance. In the heavenly domain, a very common friend notification rang. However, after looking at the name, many players immediately grew excited. Troubling Rain. The character who had come online was impressively Troubling Rain, a godlike character known as the Sword Saint. No matter how amazing an account was, it came from the game. This was why accounts in the game as well as accounts in the Alliance could be searched. For characters that were liked, who knew how many players asked to be their friend. Some characters directly refused them, while some required them to identify themselves, and a select few directly added them. Unless the character was the type to directly refuse them, it wasn't impossible to add a pro-god as a friend. In the game, the number of players who were Troubling Rain's friends weren't few. So when his name popped up, many players immediately took note of it. Quite a few bravely sent their greetings to the god. Oops, I forgot to hide myself. The continuous message prompts made Huang Shaoshan's eyes go blurry, so he hastily logged out. Because of his special status, his short-lived appearance instantly brought a lot of attention. Troubling Rain had gone online. This news was already being discussed in the World Channel. A pro player's character was being played in-game? This type of occurrence wasn't anything new. In the Heavenly Domains arena, pro players would frequently play a few rounds. Many normal players had the experience of playing against a pro-level player. However, god-level characters like Troubling Rain truly hadn't appeared in the arena for a long time. Pro players didn't use the in-game arena for practice. The game company specially provided them with an environment with which to play in. Apart from this, they also had map editors, setting editors. They could design their own maps with which to practice certain things. The game. These types of top-tier accounts rarely appeared in the game. While the players were talking about Troubling Rain in the World Channel, Huang Shaoshan quietly logged into the game, making himself invisible to his friends. Even though many still sent messages, Huang Shaoshan calmly acted like he wasn't there. But the name on top of his head couldn't be hidden, and the name Troubling Rain still was capable of causing a lot of wide eyes. So he went to a small town in a normal server after leaving the heavenly domain to be away from the prying eyes. His journey through could have been considered as smooth. Huang Shaoshan entered the small town and went directly to the arena. He set up a room in the fixed field. But he began to sweat after opening his friends list. Troubling Rain and Lord Grimm weren't in the same server. Lord Grimm wasn't in the heavenly domain either, so he couldn't add him as a friend. Helpless, he could only Alt-Tab out of the game and open up QQ. He didn't care whether Yishu really wasn't on there or if he was faking it and sent him a few messages. However, there was no response. Just as Huang Shaoshan was feeling helpless, he suddenly discovered that Su Mucheng was on, so he immediately sent her a message. Through this, he was finally able to connect to Yishu. Huang Shaoshan waited bitterly for a long time. Su Mucheng finally returned with a reply. He won't be playing. He doesn't have time. He's about to go dungeon. Dungeon? Which dungeon? Huang Shaoshan asked. He'll probably go to Line Canyon first, Su Mucheng said. F***ck, Huang Shaoshan felt depressed. What status did he have? How could he be less important than a stupid dungeon like Line Canyon? Fine, Huang Shaoxin had no choice but to admit defeat. To be able to fight with an expert like him, such an opportunity would be extremely hard to come by for a normal player, but to Yi Chu, this wasn't anything special. Ask him to come fight with me. I'm using my main account. My main account. I've opened a fixed field, so I won't be bullying him. Let me see how strong this unspecialized is, Huang Shaoxin chattered. Quote, but Su Mucheng automatically replied, in the middle of a dungeon. Hey hey hey. In the middle of a dungeon. Su Mucheng, you have no future. You talk in the same way as him. You only need to pass on what I'm saying to him. Did you pass what I said to him? Huang Shaoxin quickly typed out. In the middle of a dungeon. Hey, I do what I want to do, it's none of your business. Su Mucheng had clearly been looking at the chat and suddenly replied to Huang Shaoxin's taunts. No future. Same. Huang Shaoxin's words didn't make her mad, but they rather suited her quite well. Huang Shaoxin continued to roar, completely displaying his talkative personality. Unfortunately, they couldn't move Su Mucheng and all he received were, in the middle of a dungeon, automatic replies. Helpless, Huang Shaoxin got off his troubling rein and went onto Flowing Tree. This account had Lord Grimm as his friend, so as soon as he got on he spammed, hey 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 hey. What? Yishu calmly replied. PK, 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 Huang Shaoxin shouted. I'm in a dungeon, Yishu said. What dungeon? If you still have any pro sense in you, how could running a dungeon be something you should be doing? Hurry up and come to the arena. You need a high-skilled opponent to help you maintain your condition, Huang Shaoxin said. In the middle of a dungeon. You two are so shameful, Huang Shaoxin almost flipped the table. He wasn't easily irritated on stage. But in private, he was more carefree, so there was no need to control his emotions. I'm in a dungeon right now. Wait until I'm free, Yishu said. Huang Shaoxin was helpless. He could only go offline and watch the recording again. In-game, Yishu and the others really were dungeoning. Line Canyon was a dungeon record they could already try and challenge. This dungeon was a level 30 to 33 one. There wasn't any large 5-level equipment or skill difference, so the levels weren't as significant. It was similar to that times level 25 versus level 27 run at Boneyard. Yishu's 5-man team had good equipment and after the addition of Chao Yifan, they no longer had any weaknesses. They completely had the ability to contest with the elite teams of the big guilds. And this time, after Blue Brook Guild's Blue River found out who Lord Grimm was, he had already prepared a deal. Now, they were figuring out how to conduct the negotiation. In this dungeon record, the guild who was in the most troublesome position was Tyrannical Ambition. Blue Brook Guild was their warning. Blue Brook Guild had tried to compete against Lord Grimm for the record, but were stepped on in the end. There didn't seem to be any hopes in turning that over. Blue Brook Guild's carefully established power had fallen and for now, they had no way of climbing back up. And for Tyrannical Ambition? The effects from the previous blow to them still remained. The number of players who were applying to their guild was declining, but they still had a chance. Line Canyon was the place where they could prove themselves. But, Lord Grimm, how were they going to deal with this huge mountain? After witnessing Blue Brook Guild's miserable state, Tyrannical Ambition's guild leader Zhang Yu decided to bravely go to the club for help as well. But when he got to the practice room, he happened to come at a time when the team captain Han Wenking was reprimanding the team members. Besides his criticizing shouts in the practice room, there were no other sounds. No one dared to speak out. How could Zhang Yu dare to go up? Zhang Yu had waited for the session to end before cautiously moving forward. But once he saw Han Wenking's strict glare, Zhang Yu's mustered-up courage suddenly disappeared. He pretended like he was just passing by and slipped away. No good, even if he went to the club to ask the experts for help, he couldn't go directly to the captain, Han Wenking. It'd be better to go look for the vice-captain Zhang Jinji. After pacing back and forth outside of the practice room, he finally decided on this. Zhang Jinji was also a famous player in the alliance. As Tyranny's vice-captain, he wasn't a person who just offered sympathy after Han Wenking's reprimanding. Zhang Jinji was solemn, strict, and precise. He was the current record holder in the alliance for the least number of mistakes on average in a match. Zhang Jinji was publicly recognized as more outstanding than any other god-level character in this area, showing just how serious his style was. For a serious person like him, Zhang Yu believed that he would have an appropriate solution. At least, he wouldn't be like Han Wenking and start shouting at him. Zhang Jinji was serious, while Han Wenking was stubborn. Zhang Yu left first and prepared to look for a chance. In short, after looking at what happened to Blue Brook Guild, he knew only using their in-game experts wouldn't be good enough. Zhang Yu completely recognized this. In-game, the first-string teams in the big guilds were already level 33. They were currently looking to set the final record for Line Canyon. Even though they knew about the large mountain that was Lord Grimm, they also knew that they still had the chance to set a record before the limit was reached. Even if the record wouldn't last until the very end, they could still appear on TV and earn experience as well as purple equipment rewards. Today, Line Canyon's record had been made with a time of 30 hours 41 minutes and 12 seconds. Afterwards, it hadn't been broken. But right now, the 10th server were mostly paying attention to that match between Poplar Beach and Chasing Haze. Not many people noticed this dungeon besides the big guilds. Zhang Yu put this record in his eyes. If he had experts from the heavenly domain come, then they'd definitely be able to break it. But, what about Lord Grimm's team? Where was their limit? What were they doing now? At midnight, when the dungeon entries refreshed, Zhang Yu quietly pondered. Chapter 188, Difficult to say. Information from Line Canyon has arrived. Lord Grimm and his team went to Line Canyon. That one-inch Ash who set the record with them at Desolate Land the other day is there as well. After Cold Knight received the info, he sent it over to guild leader Zhang Yu. Zhang Yu logged into the Elementalist crowd lever he used last time and began directing work in the 10th server. In the afternoon, Zhang Yu went to the club, but didn't get anything done. When he returned, he said he saw Han Wenking and was too afraid to talk. Cold Knight understood him well, extremely well. He had also had the opportunity to see Han Wenking with his own eyes. He truly was a person who made your heart chill. If he had been taking a night stroll and ran into him, the other side wouldn't even have to say anything and he'd give him his wallet. The current record isn't the limit. If any big guild had their elite experts go all out, then they'd all be able to reach the limit. But looking at the previous records, Lord Grimm's team clearly has the ability to exceed this limit. Although they aren't yet level 33, with their skill, they should already be able to compete with us, Zhang Yu analyzed. Yeah, Cold Knight agreed with this analysis. If they set an extremely fast record right now, then things would be difficult for us. We'd have no way of taking back the record and it would be too late to negotiate with them. From now on, I don't think any guild will ask them to substitute in. We won't, but that might not be true for other guilds. This is the most difficult part, Zhang Yu laughed bitterly. Others, Cold Knight doubted. Our guild needs the dungeon records to show our strength, but some other guilds might not. And for Lord Grimm, there's no difference between earning items from them or us. But other than our big guilds, who else is able to pay his price? Cold Knight said. 4 Scarlet Moon parts, do you still not understand? Zhang Yu said. Zhang Yu understood. Lord Grimm was willing to set the price at 4 Scarlet Moon parts. What did that mean? It meant that Lord Grimm's price depended on the buyer. Big guilds might not feel like it was fair, but they had no choice. The initiative was all on the other side's hands. Being bought with 4 Scarlet Moon parts by Full Moon Guild was a show of his attitude. Would you like me to contact him so we can discuss the records? Cold Knight said. Oh, what are you planning on saying? Zhang Yu asked. We're still thinking about the conditions and we hope he'll stay put for now, Cold Knight said. You can try it. Let's see if we can let him drag things out, Zhang Yu said. At this moment, Cold Knight suddenly cried out in astonishment. What is it? I received a message, Cold Knight said. What message? From Lord Grimm? No, from Excellent Dynasty, Cold Knight said. Excellent Dynasty? What did they say? Zhang Yu was surprised. They want to talk with us face to face, Cold Knight said. Zhang Yu furrowed his brows. Looking at the two guilds' backgrounds, Excellent Dynasty and Tyrannical Ambition were absolute enemies. This enmity was even greater than the enmity between Tiny Herb and Blue Rain. Tiny Herb's and Blue Rain's enmity started from Season 6 playoffs, when Team Blue Rain defeated Team Tiny Herb, while their Tyrannical Ambition and Excellent Dynasty's enmity originated long before that. The two teams were both old brands in glory. They had both fought against each other to be champions ever since the first season. Their rivalry began there. Excellent Era had won the championships 3 years in a row, but in the fourth season, they were finally dethroned by Tyranny. From then on, Excellent Era began going downhill year after year. Tyranny, on the other hand, continued to maintain their strength. However, they hadn't been able to win their second championship yet. For this reason, both sides taunted each other. From the club's fans to the media, from the matches on stage to those underneath, their relationship was much tenser than Tiny Herb's and Blue Rain's. Herb Garden's Plantago Seed and Blue Brook Guild's Blue River could still at each other as friends and chat with one another, but such a relationship would be very difficult for Tyrannical Ambition and Excellent Dynasty. The reason Cold Knight was able to receive the message was because the other side had temporarily added him as a friend. Excellent Dynasty is looking for us, it's probably related to Lord Grimm, Zhang Yu said. In fact, Excellent Dynasty was the first to begin fighting with Lord Grimm. Cold Knight said. Their tyrannical ambition hadn't been in conflict with Lord Grimm yet. As for Excellent Dynasty, they had engaged in a large battle against Lord Grimm for Frost Forest and Boneyard. From the records, each side had won one battle, but it seemed like Lord Grimm had lasted the longest. Everyone had originally been looking forward to seeing Excellent Dynasty act out again, but after being stepped on in Boneyard, there was no other movement from them. We can go and see them. When? Now, Zhang Yu asked. He didn't say the time, Cold Knight said. Then schedule it now. Face-to-face writing method, Zhang Yu said. Writing method meant that even though the two were face-to-face, they would still type out messages to communicate. Usually, when both sides conducted important meetings, they would use this type of method. The content they typed out would appear above their characters' heads. If the meeting was being recorded, then these could be used as proof. The other side wants to talk first, Cold Knight replied. No problem. Let's go and take a look, Zhang Yu answered. What about Lord Grimm? Cold Knight asked. Try to contact him and ask, Zhang Yu thought for a while and then spoke. Okay, Cold Knight replied. He had his character move forward and sent a message. Brother. Yeah. Are you able to set a record for Line Canyon tonight? Cold Knight asked. Hard to say, Yishu replied. This answer made Cold Knight surprised. Even if Yishu wasn't going to set the record, he had expected him to bluff and give them pressure. What type of answer was that? What difficulties do you have? Cold Knight asked. We met a hidden, Yishu said. Tears streamed down Cold Knight's cheeks. Hidden boss. When Yishu's group entered Line Canyon, they received a system notification. Steamed Bun Invasion cried out in joy. In their team, Yishu, Su Mucheng, and Chao Yifan were all pro players, so nothing in a little dungeon would surprise them. Tang Ru wasn't only a new player in Glory, but a new gamer too, so she still didn't know what was valuable in games. Only Steamed Bun Invasion was both a noob in Glory and an experienced gamer, so he was quite happy about anything valuable in Glory. If not, then why would he bravely gather a bunch of strangers at around level 20 to fight for the Blood Gunner? This was why at this moment, seeing this hidden boss, only Steamed Bun Invasion expressed his excitement. So we finally meet one, Yishu also followed. Their recent fights with the guilds over the records had gone smoothly, but they weren't so lucky in other areas. Especially for hidden bosses, they hadn't met one in a few days. Illusion Swordmaster Ahing, Tang Ru looked at the system announcement and read out the hidden boss's name. The most difficult boss in this dungeon, Yishu said. What features does he have? Tang Ru asked. Did you not look at the guide? Yishu asked. I haven't, Tang Ru said bluntly. When she watched the videos in the guides, she never looked at the dungeons. Her research was focused on PvP. She wasn't too interested in PvE. Author note: PvP is player versus player battles. PvE is fighting with monsters, dungeoning, completing missions, etc. The Illusion Sword Master class is a combination of the Berserker and the Blade Master class, so every skill he possesses comes from those two classes. I don't think there's anything more that needs to be said. Pay close attention to his left-handed blade, Yishu said. Left-handed blade? Yeah, this boss is right-handed, but he also has a short blade at his waist side. While attacking, he might suddenly use his left hand to draw the short blade to perform a sneak attack. This type of attack is called a left-handed blade. There are many different ways he can attack with this. Any of his skills can be used through his left-handed blade, so everyone pay attention, Yishu said. When Yishu said everyone, he was actually only talking about Tangru and Steamed Bun Invasion. Su Mucheng and Chao Yifan didn't need any warning. Line Canyon's dungeon terrain was that of a canyon. There were two large cliffs on either side, so players could only move forward. The monsters were similar to those in the leveling area. However, they were elite types, so they did more damage and had more health. This illusionary swordsman Ahang's background was described as someone who was hiding out in Line Canyon to escape pursuit. As a result, he treated anyone who intruded into the canyon as enemies. This was what the game described him as. Of course, even if he didn't actively come and kill players, the players wouldn't let him go. In general, female players liked the story plot, but Su Mucheng was an old player at Glory, and she had finished the plot enough times to make her wanna puke seeing it. Tangru wasn't very interested in the game itself. How could she care about any stories about some NPC? She would compare herself to Yishu every day to see whether she had improved, how much she had improved, and how much longer until she could crush the guy. They slaughtered their way through the dungeon with Yishu reminding them the tactics from time to time. The illusion swordmaster Ahang didn't have a fixed spawn point and could appear at any moment. Sure enough, after clearing a mob of monsters at an intersection, a red-clothed swordsman hurried forward from the intersection. After seeing the 5 players, he cried out his lines. That was quick. Chapter 189, Illusion Swordmaster Ahang. Illusion Swordmaster Ahang, red-clothed, red-haired, with a red sheath, there was even a red scar that ran across his face. His 2 red eyes stared at the 5 players. Pay attention to the Swordmaster's eyes. The redder his eyes the stronger he'll be, Yishu told the new players. If you want my life, come at me. The Swordmaster was anxious, even more than Steamed Bun Invasion, who was holding a brick in his hands. The Swordmaster jumped into the air and his sword whirled a gust of air, starting off with a collapsing mountain. Pay attention. The shockwave from his collapsing mountain will be bigger than usual, Yishu hastily warned. This meant that you would have to jump high enough to dodge the shockwave. The shockwave from normal collapsing mountains could be dodged by jumping over it. But the Swordmaster's collapsing mountain was different because the height of the hitbox was different, which was why Yishu had warned them so that Tangru and Steamed Bun Invasion wouldn't treat this collapsing mountain as normal. Unfortunately, his warning was a bit too late. Tangru reacted too quickly. Before Yishu was able to finish his warning, she had already jumped up into the air to try and avoid it. And as she jumped, she also had her soft mist send a dragon tooth over at the swordsman. Tangru was just that type of an aggressive girl. As for Steamed Bun Invasion, he hadn't jumped. When he saw the collapsing mountain arrive, he hastily ran to outside of the shockwave's range and then threw a brick flying over. Steamed Bun Invasion was just that type of a thuggish guy. When she heard Yishu's warning, Tangru knew that she was in trouble. She hadn't jumped at full strength. A perfect jump was to not use a single ounce of strength more or less than what was needed. Her jump to avoid what she thought would be a normal collapsing mountain was in an attempt to do this, but unfortunately the Swordmaster's attack wasn't normal. The shock wave from the sword slash emitted a faint red glow as if the slash had created a blood mist. Soft Mist was unable to dodge the shock wave and was hit spiraling into the air. The boss seized this opportunity to follow up and combo. The Swordmaster immediately jumped and used the Blade Master skill Rising Dragon towards Soft Mist. Even though Tangru had strong mechanics, she wasn't able to stabilize her camera. All she saw on her screen was the camera spinning round and round. Under this situation, she was unable to perform any precise movements. Tang Ru randomly attacked, not knowing if she was hitting the target or the air. Yishu's Lord Grimm rushed forward. He stabbed forward with his lance and threw out a circle swing in order to pull down the illusion swordmaster. However, he was met with the unique skill the illusion swordmaster possessed, left-handed blade. A cold light flashed. It wasn't anything flashy. It was thin, quick, and instantly disappeared. But this blade clashed with Lord Grimm's lance and the circle swing was smashed to the side. Bang bang bang. 3 gunshots. At the same time, the left-handed blade blocked the circle swing, cleansing mist shot anti-tank missiles, hitting the boss. The 3 explosions blew the illusion swordmaster away. But a boss was still a boss, and so the anti-tank missiles that had a strong knockback effect normally was only capable of shaking the illusion swordmaster a little bit. Hence, the rising dragon wasn't interrupted and the sword light flashed up, cutting soft mist. The spiraling soft mist spun even faster. Her body smashed into the cliff. The blood from the cut sprayed down from the air. Soft mist bounced off the cliff before dropping to the ground. It looked as if she had already been defeated. But the instant she hit the ground, she suddenly turned alive and used a quick recover to stand back up. In-game, as long as the player controlling the character didn't lose hope, there was no such thing as being seen as dispirited. The leap of the illusion swordmaster's rising dragon was much higher than when the skill was used by players. This was one of the more troublesome reasons about meeting a boss. Even though many of the boss's skills came from the in-game skill trees, the effects were different from the players and the majority of them had stronger effects than the player's skills. The high-up illusion swordmaster suddenly pointed his sword while descending and used falling light blade directly towards the closest target, Lord Grimm. Yishu swiped his keyboard and had Lord Grimm step to the side. Not waiting for the falling light blade, he drew out a sword from the myriad manifestation umbrella. A silver light arced into a semicircle. At the same time, a similar arc of light flashed from the opposite side of Lord Grimm. The 2 sword lights weaved together, merging into a brilliant moon. The one who acted was Chao Yifan, who had moved at the same time as Yishu. They had used the same skill, the Ghost Blade's knock-up skill, Moonlight Slash. Good, Yishu shouted. The illusion swordmaster's falling light blade was interrupted by these 2 attacks. The 2 sword lights slashed across his body in midair, keeping him from falling. 2 sword arcs flashed again at the same time, following the same path as the previous moonlight slashes. This time, they slashed in the other direction, creating a perfect circle. Ghostblade level 20 skill, Full Moonlight Slash. This skill had a strong blow-away effect, but because Chao Yifan and Yishu were on opposite sides, the 2 skills counterbalanced each other, keeping the illusion swordmaster in place. The sword lights faded. The moment the illusion swordmaster hit the ground, a laser flew forward, hitting him square in the stomach and caused him to stumble back a few steps. This was Cleansing Mist's laser rifle. Ice Boundary. Chao Yifan had already begun casting the spell when Yishu yelled towards him. Frost formed on the tip of his sword. The Ice Soul created a boundary that spread out. Yishu utilized this opportunity to use Sword Soul and created a sword boundary. The wily steamed bun invasion cheered them on as he ran past them and tossed a handful of sand at the illusion swordmaster. Blind. The illusion swordmaster had clearly lost his sense of direction. He couldn't find his opponents and walked around in a circle twice. The ice boundary's effect had been set and ice had begun corroding his body. With a crackle, the freeze effect triggered and the illusion swordmaster turned into a large block of ice. Tang Ru, who had just taken a beating, quickly rushed forward. The instant the swordmaster was frozen, she chained double stab, dragon tooth, and falling flower palm together, followed by 3 magic chasers that flew out. After the 3 skills hit, the freeze wore off. The illusion swordmaster then used Gore Cross. The Scarlet Cross didn't look like 2 sword lights, rather, they looked like 2 blood arcs. The cross flew towards Soft Mist, who immediately leapt back to avoid it. But just as she was about to counterattack, she unexpectedly realized that a smaller Gore Cross was hidden behind the original one. In that instant, Tang Ru saw the left hand of the illusion swordmaster move to his waist and realized that the illusion swordmaster had used his left-handed blade to use a Gore Cross at the same time. A big one to hide the small one, extremely smart. The unfortunate Tang Ru was directly hit by the small gore cross. When she looked down at her body, fresh blood continued to flow from the cross wound formed by the attack. This gore cross had caused a bleed to take effect. Her bad luck continued again. The gloomy Tang Ru didn't dare to advance forward for a second time. She immediately used a health potion and retreated. The bleed effect from the illusion swordmaster was very strong. Her health continued to drop even after using the health potion. Tang Ru began to panic. She didn't know how low her health would drop to or how to stop it. Rest for a bit, Yi Shu's Lord Grimm said as he rushed forward from beside her to block the illusion swordmaster. Tang Ru immediately relaxed. She believed in Yi Shu's judgment and knew that she at least wouldn't die. The low-health Tang Ru temporarily became a spectator, while Steam Bun Invasion continued to act sly. He didn't dare get too close to the swordmaster. Sand Toss and Brick became two long-range skills, which he used whenever there was a chance to. As a result, the only two who were left to face the illusion swordmaster directly were Yi Shu and Chao Yifan. Su Mucheng's launcher naturally couldn't rush forward and fight in close range. Yi Shu saw everything. A pro player was still a pro player. Whether it was him, Su Mucheng, or Chao Yifan, none of them had any trouble dealing with the illusion swordmaster. The reason Tang Ru was half dead was because of an old problem of hers: she lacked experience. As for Steam Bun Invasion, he was currently wandering outside of the team. The usefulness of this type of performance was quite limited for a team. Tang Ru and Steam Bun Invasion actually weren't very suited to be team players. Tang Ru was too stubborn and aggressive. Her performance practically revolved with her as the center. Her problem was actually similar to that faced by Sun Shang in his first match, when he had just joined Excellent Era: stubborn individual performance causing the team to come apart. However, in their current team, there was Yi Shu, Su Mucheng, and Chao Yifan. Their strength was far greater than Tang Ru's, so they still had enough strength to suppress this problem. However, as Tang Ru became more and more skilled, this problem would be exposed sooner or later. As for Steam Bun Invasion, this guy was too carefree. He had too much of an individual style. As an individual, he might become a player who was impossible to copy, but as a team player, this type of player wouldn't be able to completely merge because his style was simply too unique. There were predecessors of this type of player. Wang Jiaxi. Team Tiny Herb's current captain, Wang Jiaxi. His magician style was the strangest and most graceful style in the alliance. In the individual competition, Wang Jiaxi had an extremely high win rate. But in the team competition, his individual performance was limited. Assimilating this style into the team was a problem Wang Jiaxi hadn't been able to resolve. In the end, he made a sacrifice for the team and changed his style to fit in with the team. It was only because of these changes that Team Tiny Herb was able to become champions twice in the past 3 years. Chapter 190, The Boss's Shadow Steps. Steam Bun Invasion's situation was somewhat similar to that of Wang Jiaxi's. However, Wang Jiaxi possessed the ability to adjust, while Steam Bun Invasion probably didn't know how to do so. After all, even Yi Shu wasn't sure how to help him develop. After Wang Jiaxi changed, he was still at God level, but if others did the same thing he did, they might fall to a mediocre level. A transformation wasn't something that easy to do. Even though Steam Bun Invasion was a noob at Glory, he wasn't a blank slate in other areas of the game. In reality, he had some understanding of what he was doing. In this area, he wasn't like Tang Ru. Tang Ru truly was a complete blank slate. But it was a pity that this girl's personality was so stubborn. She had pretty much figured out her own style already and it wasn't possible to create a large transformation. Yi Shu could help by instructing her about the game's mechanics, but he didn't have the ability to change her personality. Everyone was an adult, so their ways of thinking had matured. Tang Ru's personality wasn't anything bad either. It just stopped her from becoming a good team player, that was all. Yi Shu pondered over this as he watched the two play. But his playing wasn't slow even though he was multitasking. With 10 years of experience, he had experienced all kinds of battles. Many of the things he needed to do were done automatically without too much thought. Taking the boss down wasn't a problem. They were a team that could defeat a level 36 wild boss. If they couldn't beat a weaker level 33 hidden boss, Illusion Swordmaster Ahang, then they'd be a joke. The important point was that these types of dungeons could be used as practice for everyone. Yi Shu directed the team as he fought casually. His focus was naturally on Tang Ru and steamed bun invasion. Su Mucheng rarely needed Yi Shu to say anything. As for Chao Yifan, Yi Shu hadn't judged him wrong. He was the complete opposite of Tang Ru and steamed bun invasion. His personality and awareness made him an outstanding team player. He was adept at observing, he paid attention to the performance of every team player and tried hard to coordinate with each of them. A part of why Tang Ru's and steamed bun invasion's performances weren't too good was because they were too unfamiliar with the hidden boss. After familiarizing themselves with the Illusion Swordmaster's various skills, the two would gradually assimilate themselves into the team. Correct, they could still assimilate. But as their skills continue to grow, their styles would become more and more unique and their conflicts within the team would become greater and greater. This was what Yi Shu was thinking about right now. But as of right now, they were still a good team. Under Yi Shu's orders, the Illusion Swordmaster was gradually suppressed as he was hit blow after blow under the cliffs. Lord Grimm and 1-inch Ash's dual-linking ghost boundaries never broke, so the team was always in a boundary. Waves of poison arose from steamed bun invasion's attacks. 3 types of magic chasers flew out from soft mist. Explosions erupted from cleansing mist's cannon. They continued to bombard the Illusion Swordmaster with their skills. Ahang's eyes grew more and more red, his head was covered in sweat, and his expression grew more and more serious. Careful, almost red blood, Yi Shu suddenly said. What happens when he goes into red blood? Tang Ru immediately asked. In the beginning, she had suffered quite a bit because she didn't know what the boss's features were. Tang Ru had learned from her mistakes. Shadow steps, Yi Shu said. Oh, what's that? Steamed bun invasion asked. He wasn't like Tang Ru in this area. Tang Ru had helped Chen Guo PK a few times before, so she had seen quite a few high-leveled skills. Even though she might not know the name, Shadow Steps had been used in the fight between Poplar Beach and Yi Shu recently. Chen Guo had even called out the name, so Tang Ru knew what this skill was. But Steam Bun Invasion had only played on this account, so he didn't know of any skills above level 30. It's an afterimage. There'll be 5 soon, 1 for each of us, Yi Shu said. If this were a normal team, then they wouldn't dare split the team to fight each afterimage one-on-one. But Yi Shu's team was strong, so they dared to fight them directly this way. Careful, Yi Shu, who had been paying attention to the boss's health the entire time, finally shouted. The Illusion Swordmaster Ahang's eyes began to glow red. The white of his eyes could no longer be seen. Back. Following Yi Shu's command, the 5 characters quickly leapt back. The Illusion Swordmaster roared towards the sky. The red light surrounding his body extravagantly burst outwards. The rocks and grass around him were blown apart and a burst of wind surged down. Fortunately, Yi Shu's warning had been quick and the 5 players retreated fast enough to dodge this attack. Next, the Illusion Swordmaster twirled his sword in a dance-like motion. His figure blurred and split into 5 towards them. What was different from a Blade Master's Shadow Step was that the Illusion Swordmaster's Shadow Steps didn't have any distinction between real and fake. The 5 were all Illusion Swordmasters. This meant that the players had to fight against 5 bosses at the same time. If this continued up until the end, then the battle would be impossible to finish. Fortunately, Shadow Steps only lasted for a certain duration. For the Illusion Swordmaster, it was 30 seconds. As long as the players could survive for 30 seconds, then the 5 afterimages would turn back into 1. However, after combining together again, the amount of damage the players had dealt in this battle wasn't additive, but rather an average. This meant that the actual damage the players dealt was the total amount. This made the battle longer. The Illusion Swordmaster's Shadow Steps wasn't a one-time use skill. It would continue using it whenever it could until its life was completely gone. Normal parties would run away during this time. Defense was their priority. They weren't looking for damage. The damage would only be of the total anyways. Once the illusion swordmaster merged back into one, the team would then begin attacking again. But Yi Shu's team was more heroic. It didn't matter if the damage was split or not, they would still fight like normal. The 5 illusion swordmaster afterimages were also very intelligent and each found a target to attack. The left rear illusion swordmaster sent a sword draw at Steamed Bun Invasion, who rolled out of the way. Steamed Bun hadn't even gotten up yet, when he threw out a sand toss at him. Even though the illusion swordmaster was a boss, it was still blinded for a short while. Steamed Bun Invasion took this opportunity and closed in to whack the back of his head with a brick. After triggering the dizzy effect, he applied poison onto his weapon. He then used inject poison and gave the illusion swordmaster a good dose of poison. The right rear illusion swordmaster hacked forward at Soft Mist with a collapsing mountain. Tang Ru met with this attack once again, but instead of retreating, she moved forward and once again, jumped up to attack. Except this time, she calculated the height of the shock wave. She leapt over it and stabbed forward with a circle swing. Her arms whirled in a circle and smashed the illusion swordmaster onto the ground. She had suffered once before and now she was going to return it all with even more ferocity. Tang Ru was just that type of girl who refused to accept defeat. The left front illusion swordmaster used triple slash directly to close in on Cleansing Mist. Su Mucheng immediately jumped up and blasted out an artillery shell, which exploded and sent herself flying backwards from the recoil. However, this shot wasn't able to interrupt the boss's triple slash. 3 sword lights, one after another, chased down Cleansing Mist, but each slash missed Cleansing Mist by just a hair's breadth. Su Mucheng clearly had everything under control. Chao Yifan, on the other hand, took the initiative to close in on the boss. After casting an ice boundary, he not only hit his own target, but he also turned the one heading towards Lord Grimm into an ice block. Even in this type of battle, everyone for themselves, if Chao Yifan found an opportunity to, he would still coordinate with others. Yi Shu knew what to do. When Chao Yifan casted ice boundary, he casted a sword boundary as well. The two began fighting inside these boundaries. His myriad manifestation umbrella transformed into the gun form and sent out anti-tank missiles. The target was Chao Yifan's opponent. The 3 missiles exploded and the illusion swordmaster stumbled backwards a few steps. Chao Yifan made his move right at this moment. He used Moonlight Slash into a full Moonlight Slash followed by a Ghost Slash. The 3 slashes sliced forward. At this moment, he wasn't feeling happy because he had hit the boss, but rather he felt happy because he had coordinated with Yi Shu. Under his lead, the god had actively responded to his move, making Chao Yifan feel he wasn't alone. Every team member depended on each other and this was what it meant to be teammates. This was an extremely wonderful feeling. After helping Chao Yifan block his illusion swordmaster, Yi Shu shook the myriad manifestation umbrella into the battle lance form and used a sky strike at the illusion swordmaster. The illusion swordmaster's right-handed sword continued to attack, while using his left-handed blade to block Lord Grimm's sky strike. How could Yi Shu be tricked by this puny trick? His battle lance suddenly retracted. The illusion swordmaster's left-handed blade blocked nothing. The myriad manifestation umbrella had already turned into 2 sections that hung on Lord Grimm's arms. He rolled to avoid the right-handed sword. His 2 arms held the illusion swordmaster tightly and flung the illusion swordmaster away. After using the grappler skill, he changed the myriad manifestation umbrella back into a battle lance. Yi Shu was just about to have his Lord Grimm follow up, when he suddenly heard 2 ring-ring sounds from outside. Yi Shu had lowered the in-game volume to very low because he frequently had to listen for these sounds. When he heard this, Yi Shu couldn't help but curse, F***ck. Having been on night duty for so many days, he had to bring customers drinks many times. Finally, someone had called for his service at a crucial time. Yi Shu's left hand quickly left the keyboard and connected to the service line. He asked, "What would you like?" "What?" The first to respond were the 4 players on the team. Yishu hadn't taken off his headphones. 2 colas. The customer's voice came out from the service line soon after. Just a second, Yishu said.